Well, hello conservation divers, and thank you for supporting our Patreon page. In this series of videos, we're going to be going through and providing a bit of a mentorship and all the information you need in order to start your own conservation diver training center. We do this so that you can actually take control and start to manage the resources in your area, the resources that come from your environment and that sustain your community. If you're watching these videos, you're probably already started on a path down trying to create a marine conservation training center, or you're already managing the reef resources in your area. In these videos, we hope to teach you more about this process and to provide you all the help you need to go from zero to hero in creating your own reef management program. This first series will go through the steps required to get you to actually start setting up your conservation program. This will include getting educated, doing your internship, approaching a dive center, planning your courses, and actually opening your first program and starting your first projects. But you don't have to do this alone. Conservation Diver will be with you every step along the way. So let's start this first series and talk about what steps you need to take to start to plan your own Conservation Diver training center. I think the best way to illustrate the path required to get you to start your own training center is to talk a little bit about the path that I took to start the new Heaven Reef Conservation Program, or what we call the NHRCP. I first went out to Thailand in 2006, just fresh out of school, to do a project for university. It was a bit of a mapping project, but we got involved in a lot of other stuff on the island, including teaching swimming to kids, doing a bit of reef check surveys, and doing a bit of work on artificial reef. Projects were all highly successful and also quite rewarding and valuable. However, when the primary funder of that nonprofit stepped aside, then they lost all their money and those projects basically stopped overnight. What that illustrated to me is that although a lot of great stuff can happen through the nonprofit model, and I'm not discounting them at all, it didn't seem sustainable to me on the long term, that everything could stop so suddenly just because of one person who stopped funding it. So I wanted to try to create a system that is for-profit model and actually take conservation and environmental stewardship into the free market economy that's actually causing all the problems for the environment. So what we started was the new Heaven Reef Conservation Program, and the first year was very, very slow. So don't expect to come out of the gates, with tons of students in an accessible program like you might see the programs that we have running today. It took a while to get those programs to where they are. In the first year at the NHRCP, we only had 2 students. We had a 3-day course that consisted of an ecology lecture with a bit of a reef survey, a second day doing a cleanup, a beautification and protection project, and the third day just transplanting some corals onto an artificial reef structure. But from these humble roots, we started to improve on these courses, and we eventually evolved to have a 4-week course which included internships up to 2 to 3 months. We ended up with several staff members, interns, and thousands of students per year, and eventually were recognized as one of the world's most successful coral restoration organizations. But that took a long time. Those first few years were very difficult for me, and I could see how easily it would be for somebody to lose track or lose their inspiration and motivation to continue forward when you spend an entire year with just 2 students. So we started in 2014 the Conservation Diver Foundation, and the idea behind this was just to really act as a catalyst or to accelerate the development for someone to go from their initial idea of wanting to start one of these programs to actually achieving something like the NHRCP or any other rendition that they have in their mind of a local marine conservation center. We provide them with the networking, the certifications provides them with the capital and the funding, and we provide them with the mentorships through videos like this. And we can see examples of how that's worked with other people subsequent to the NHRCP. The first person to go through the Conservation Diver program was a guy named George Bevan. And he had come to the program with the intention of eventually starting his own program, got all the training, did the internship, and went on to start azul conservation in Nicaragua, which has been quite successful. So much so that he's now moved on to the Azores Islands to start a second program. Another example would be like Leon Haynes, who came through New Heaven to do an internship and work on his master's project. He did an excellent master's thesis there that got published, and then he moved on to start his own training center in the Gili Islands. And lastly, we have the example of Dr. Raul Meortra, who was an intern at NHRCP and eventually became an integral part of that program, helping to develop several courses, publishing several papers, and really just improving that program overall. He later became one of the board members of Conservation Diver and now has started his own research program in the northern Gulf of Thailand. It's not necessarily the exact same as the rest of the Conservation Diver centers. It's more focused on research than protection or restoration. They do that. They're more interested in the quantitative science side of things. And that's no problem at all. We try to be adaptable and dynamic and work with the people who are coming to us so that we can ensure that our programs provide the best resources to the individuals in their environment, community, and the resources they have available to them. We completely understand that this will be a unique path for everybody. However, in this series of videos, we're going to outline the typical path and then leave room for you to fill in kind of what's unique about your situation. Through our private chat room, you can ask us questions and we will answer them or create new videos to answer them in more detail and help you to achieve your goal of becoming a Conservation Diver Training Center. So in the next video, we're going to go through how to get educated, how to get all your training, knowledge, and confidence to teach these courses, and then we'll move through the rest of the videos. So thank you for joining us. We're very happy to have you, and we're very happy to see your career in marine conservation prosper and to be a part of it. So thanks for being a part of our Patreon page. Thank you for supporting us and to being a part of our movement.